that
Hello and welcome everyone to the Wednesday night service at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. As we're coming on the air, I'm hearing folks talking, so I'm gonna mute the others who are speaking and welcome you to the Wednesday night service. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew. I am a licensed minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm also the host of Wednesday night and the secretary of the board at Oakland Center. Wednesday night service is an experience to be had, and tonight you'll get that experience. It's a place where we come together as a community midweek to be spiritually refreshed. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, and this Wednesday night is no exception. We'll be sharing in a satsang style, building off the principles of science of mind and practices with an intention that these gatherings, when we come together on Wednesday evenings, it's informal, it's intimate, and it's interactive. We will be doing breakout rooms this evening. So last Sunday, Reverend Sunshine Michelle introduced ideas inspired by the talk title of Unlearning the Fear of Darkness. And tonight, practitioner Judith Roberts continues the exploration of this same topic. Our annual theme for this year, 2023, is Living Out Loud. And the monthly theme for May is the light within the shadow. And as a side note, our own Reverend Sunshine Michelle helped to create the talks for this whole month. So as we gather here tonight, we welcome you. And early in Reverend Sunshine Michelle's ministry here at the Oakland Center, she invited us to come to the center well. And to do this, she shared 6 C's that I'd like to share with you for us to consider. She said, come with a heart of love and tenderness. This is compassion. Come ready to exchange openly. This is communication. Come in harmony and ready to share. This is camaraderie. Come in partnership and cooperation. This is collaboration. And come in spiritual awareness and truth. This is consciousness. So as we move into the program tonight, these 6 C's are the premise of sharing a wonderful evening with you. Welcome. I'd also like to welcome those of you who are new or newer to our evening. Baloo Domingo is one this evening who is kind of new to the Oakland Center, and we welcome you here this evening. We got a chance to chat before service and will again after service. So if you are new, maybe you're coming here to the recording, I'd like to invite you to navigate yourself to our website, oaklandcsl.org. Click on the I'm New icon, and once there, you can give us your email address, and then that way you'll start receiving the Village newsletter once a week. This has all the information that's of what's happening at the center in the coming weeks. All right, before we get the show started here, some housekeeping notes. You're welcome to keep your video on. That gives Judith a way to see your reactions to what she's saying, but please be sure to mute your audio. That way, what she says is recorded more clearly. So stay tuned to the end of the service for any special announcements that we have to give. And in the meantime, I'd like to welcome Constance Chapman, our administrator for the center, to do our opening prayer. And then after that opening prayer, I will come back and introduce Judith Roberts. Constance?
Thank you, Sally. So at the end of this beautiful day, I invite you to just take a breath. Let your eyes shut gently. And with each breath, go deeper into that darkness within, that place within your heart. And maybe it's another part of your body that you go into, but wherever you go, when you go into that breath, just go there. With each breath, go deeper. Because that is the place of the love. That is the place of of unity. That is the place of the divine. That is the place of the divine. Because that energy that we call God, that energy that we call the divine mind, the divine heart, exists everywhere. There is absolutely no place it's not. And it is a place, we don't know exactly what it's like, but I imagine that it's a place that is filled with both dark and light. The darkness of the night and the brightness of the day. That it's all there, it's all held. What I do know is that all those things that we think of as opposites that are of duality are held in that one energy as one and as love. And so I know that this service tonight is blessed, that it's divinely ordained, that everyone who's here was meant to be here, everyone who's coming was meant to come, that everything that Judith talks about is coming through the one mind, it's coming through the one voice. And that what you hear is exactly what you need to hear. And so I'm just so grateful for this. I'm so blessed for this time we have together. So the next breath in and exhale. Please join me in saying, and so it is.
Thank you, Constance. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce Judith Roberts, a practitioner at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, who's been a practitioner for almost 10 years, I believe. So welcome, Judith Roberts.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. And welcome to all of you who are here. I see old friends, I see new friends, and I see some family members. So it's always a pleasure to be here. It's a small, intimate group, and I think we're going to have a rich conversation tonight. The subject, as was said earlier, is unlearning the fear of darkness. I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to talk about a distinction between what I call healthy fear and unhealthy fear, and talking a little bit about discerning between those two, and addressing the fear of darkness, and also about managing fear, generally managing fear. And we're going to have a section tonight where we break out into, we'll do breakout groups where we'll have 2 people in a room. That'll be managed by one of our volunteers online here. And in the breakout room, you're just going to share with each other answers to a couple of questions. And my hope is that we come away from the evening with some tools that might help us in the process of dealing with fears that may come up, that we learn some tools that perhaps we haven't thought of before. And so after the breakout rooms, I'm going to invite people to share the answers to these questions, and you can share or not. This is totally up to your own comfort level. If you prefer to just listen, that's fine. And when you're in the breakout room, if you don't feel like talking about these questions, that's okay too. The breakout room is going to be for about 8 minutes. We're going to have about 4 minutes per person, and each person will have 2 questions that they address, the same 2 questions. So that's my plan for tonight. I wanted to start out with a quote by my teacher, Angelus Arian. I don't think I've heard anyone else quite address it this way, and it totally makes sense to me. She says, fear's major function is to alert us to something that may harm us so that we can heed the warning. Unfortunately, most of us feel fearful in a variety of situations that don't call for such protective measures. Fear's major effect is to constrict energy, which can harm us both mentally and physically, and motivate us to fight or flee or freeze. She didn't say freeze, but that's another one, to freeze. So that fear that doesn't have to do with protection, fear that's not a warning to us, is what I'm calling unhealthy fear. And how do we know? What's the distinction? I think, what some things that came to mind to me were a healthy fear would be how I might respond when I hear a rattlesnake. If I'm on a hike and I hear the rattle going, because that usually means the snake is wound up and ready to strike. So that would be a healthy fear, because it would be one in which I'm going to be protected. The fear is actually warning me of something that to help me stay out of harm's way. The thing that sometimes the fear comes as a visceral feeling. It's not a conscious thought, but it's just a feeling. And sometimes you sense negative energy. It comes in the form of intuition sometimes. You intuit that something's just not quite right, and that maybe you should leave the situation. You might have a sense of foreboding, and you might not know what it's about, but it's important to pay attention and to trust those feelings. Reverend Sunshine talked about it a couple weeks ago. She talked about a situation in which she was in a company meeting. I think it was like a boardroom situation, and she said her stomach started to turn, and she just felt queasy and awful, and she didn't know why, but her body did. Her body knew something. And then something happened with one of the people in the meeting, and that was really, really negative. It sounded like, a really, really bad situation directed towards her. And then she understood that her body had picked up a message, like a warning, that her mind didn't know about. So that I think it's really important to pay attention to those feelings. Angelus Arian told us once about a situation that I think to me is just, it's dramatic, and it's just stuck with me, even though I probably heard this 20 years ago, but she said that she was a very sociable, outgoing person, and she was in a coffee shop just chatting with somebody at a table, a man that she was sitting across from, and having a casual conversation. And as they were talking, she noticed the hairs on her arm stand on end. And she just looked at them, and she took it as a warning. She took it as a message. She didn't know what it was about, but she politely excused herself and left. The next day, she saw this man's picture in the newspaper, identified as a serial rapist. So her body knew something. Her body energetically responded to the situation way beyond any intellectual comprehension. So that's the kind of, warning, and sometimes fear comes with it, that's healthy, where it's actually protecting us. But then the other kinds of fear which we're all familiar with, fear of darkness is one of them, fear of the unknown. The Desiderata says, do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. We're gonna reframe the word dark, because that's talking about something negative, and we're gonna reframe that. But the important point here, the key word is imaginings, because so much of fear is imagining something that might happen, or remembering something that has happened and letting it control us, letting it kind of take us and create obstacles for us. Angela in that quote said something about constricting energy. We're limited by fear. And a lot of fear is a mental construct that's just been blown out of proportion. There's a quote from Mark Twain that I like. He said, I've suffered a great many catastrophes in my life, most of which never happened. So he's just, it's just his imagining all of these catastrophes. And sometimes when we get into our imaginations like that, we do suffer. There's a acronym for fear, FEAR, that is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. So something happens and we make all kinds of assumptions about it or projections about it and make it into something that it actually is not. So Reverend Sunshine, in the notes that she wrote up for this topic, she said, by unlearning our collective fear of the dark, we invite healing and balance with light and darkness. So on the other side of fear, in my experience, is freedom. Freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of just a sense of freedom without that constriction. So where does the fear of darkness come from? I want to throw this out to you. I want to ask you, for some of you, maybe 3 or 4, to say, what do you think? What do you think are some of the reasons that we have collectively come to fear darkness? And either raise your hand like this or use the reaction button if you would like to share, give an answer. You share your thoughts. You can put your hand up with your the reaction button.
Malu has her hand up.
I think that fear comes from feelings that being hurt before. That is one thing. Another, I think that we are so used to wanting to control things that we fear the unknown. We fear people that come with different things. So first we said like, no, and then we think about it. We fear things, the unknown, and that. For me, it's those two things: the control, the lack of control, and being in situations that you don't like, and that reminds you certain feelings of that, exactly, like not being free.
Yeah. And what about fear of darkness specifically?
Darkness, you mean like by the unknown?
Yeah.
What is for you the darkness?
The unknown.
The darkness.
It's an aspect of darkness. Yeah.
Well, for me, the darkness is the unknown, the doing something that, what if I feel in a cage and I cannot escape from this?
Right.
And that I've been hurt before, so I don't want this again. So.
Right. Thank you. Great. Anybody else have
Constance has her hand up, and then
Constance.
Maureen.
Okay, Constance?
Well, for me, it goes back about 2,500 years ago with the advent of patriarchy. And we still don't know why there was a shift in the world, but there was. And there was a need to demonize women because and to dethrone the divine feminine. And so the darkness became associated with the womb. It became associated with and there was actually a rise in the major theology where all of a sudden the sun, which had been worshipped as the S-O-N, became the S-U-N became worshipped as the sun, S-U-S-O-N. And so there was a real thing about the light, and therefore, and there was also a split, like if you're going to believe in, and I think this came later. This certainly wasn't, I don't think necessarily in Jesus's time, but later there certainly became a need to, with the whole idea of the devil, and the devil is thought of as a dark entity, and so darkness took on, it went from a place of nurturing and of growth to a place of fear and demonization. So, and that's just, even if people were raised without any religion, it's still there. It's in the collective consciousness. But it goes back, I think, 2,500 years.
Yeah, and I was going to say collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have any
Right.
direct knowledge of it, we're that collective consciousness affects us.
Right.
And we may have even adopted it.
Yeah.
Anyone else? One more person. Oh, Maureen, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, hi, Judith.
Hi.
So I was thinking I was taught to be fearful. Not necessarily of the darkness if we're talking about spiritual darkness, but I was taught in the grand sense to be fearful of things, right? So it's like your parents say, well, don't do that because this will happen or something like that. So I just feel like a lot of it has been taught. And then when Constance was talking about it, I thought about like back in the, caveman days. You could get eaten by a animal in the darkness. And so fire really helped to keep away. So the light helped to keep away the darkness. So I could see that possibly, being in our bones and keeping us, like you said, the race consciousness, bringing it forward in our now understanding of, light and darkness. But really what came up for me was that a lot of things that I look at, I'm fearful of, it's because of what I experienced or the lack of experience. So I think what Baloo said was the fear of the unknown. I think we're taught from our parents and the people around us of their unknowns, and then the fears just keep kind of going and going. So.
Right. Thank you, Maureen. Yeah, and so you've all touched on some of the things that I had written down as well. We can't see in the dark, so that can create fear of the dark. It can be handed down from families, handed down from religions and other institutions with the intent to control. Societal norms, our culture, in our culture, black is the color of mourning, but it's not in every culture. In Ethiopia and in Buddhist traditions in India, Cambodia, and Japan, the color of mourning is white. And in China, I think the color of mourning is yellow. So we have associated black, the color black, with death and with mourning, whereas cross-culturally indigenous people consider Black to represent wisdom. It's a very different paradigm. And it speaks to what Constance was saying, that in the Western culture and the patriarchal culture, the other way of holding the darkness, which was could be a source of comfort and a source of safety and creativity and gestation. It's where the seeds gestate in the ground before they're born, and where a baby gestates in the womb before it's born. All of those qualities of darkness were kind of moved out of the way. So we want to reframe that. We want to reframe that fear of darkness and suspicion of darkness, and embrace a new paradigm of darkness being something that can be a source of comfort and creativity and wisdom. I'd like to go into breakout rooms in a few minutes. But before we do, I want to share a couple of things. Our questions are going to be in our breakout room is, what is a fear that you have now or you have had in the past? And what has helped you to manage it? How have you gotten through it? And then what I'm hoping is that some of you can share some of those things that might benefit all of us. But before we do the breakout room, I want to share something I heard in a movie. I watched a movie the other night, and a father was saying to his daughter was afraid of monsters and in the dark. And he said to her, all monsters are the same. You just look them square in the eyes and they turn and run away. And years ago, I have a teacher, Prem Rawat, and years ago he told a story about fear that has stayed with me because it's so visual and dramatic. And he said that you're standing on a street and there's a bull, a huge bull bearing down on you, and it looks like its head is about 4 feet wide, and it has huge horns, and it's got smoke coming out of its nose, and it's just coming right at you. And when it gets to you, you take a step back and it goes right by. And when it goes by, you see that its body is about 3 inches long. It has these little tiny legs, and its head is made out of paper mache. So it's talking about, the illusion of fear, of how we have these mental constructs. And I love that. That image. And then this is just one of the things I'm going to share about fear, and then we're going to go into our breakout rooms. But when I was a child, when I was little, I was afraid there was a monster in the closet when I went to bed at night. And I developed a technique. Fear has layers. And I think that way down deep, I knew there wasn't a monster in the closet, but I still had a fear that there was a monster in the closet. And so my technique, what I did was, when the lights were out, I opened wide the closet door and then ran to bed and jumped into bed under the covers and waited. And I knew that with the doors open, either the monster was going to come, one of two things would happen. Either the monster would come and get me, or it wouldn't. And so when I lay there for a few minutes and the monster didn't come, then I could go peacefully to sleep. I think my brother Dave is on this call, and I don't think Dave knows this. I don't think he knows that I had this fear and that's what I did. But it was how I handled the monster in the closet, which is kind of like looking it square in the eyes. It's like, okay, come and get me if you're going to get me. And that worked for me until I outgrew it, I guess. So let's go into breakout rooms now. I think Peter's going to send you into a room with someone else. And the two questions are to share with the other person a fear you have now or that you have had in the past, and how you dealt with it. What helped you to get through the fear, to move through it?
Okay. Have a good-
Okay.
Are you in a breakout room with me, Peter?
Well, yeah, kind of. You're the host, so you can't go in.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this, so I can't go in.
Oh, there you go.
So I was gonna suggest that you make me the host, but then I'd have to give it back to you. It's not that important. It's okay.
Yeah, it works. We can both be in the breakout room here or wherever this is that I am. I guess I'm in the main room then.
We're in the main room, right?
Okay. Well, we
Right.
can pause the recording, right?
Oh, yes, thank you. I forgot that.
As long as we remember to turn it back on, that'll be great.
Spoke up.
So Freya, you're back in the main room now where everyone can hear what you were saying. So welcome and welcome everybody. Welcome back to the main room. I'd like to invite, we have about 10 minutes. And I want to invite people to share, if you would like, something that you shared with the person you were with, or in one case, it might have been 3 people. And what was your way that you got through the fear? Something that, that you think others might want to hear or might be able to benefit from. So could you raise your hand, or either this way or the reaction hand, and if you'd like to say something?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, Grady, hi.
Hi. I wondered if Freya would share hers, because the time went so fast. I didn't get to hear her share. Just the beginning part of it. Freya, would you care to share?
Well, what I will say is that all my life, if I'm afraid of something, I like back off, withdraw, run away, withdraw. And yesterday I was confronted with something, with a person. I won't go into the whole story, but someone that I would usually, just run away and stay afraid of. And I just thought, no, I'm going to speak to them. So I just went up and spoke directly to them. I don't know where I got the strength from or whatever, but I just spoke to them. I said it in a way so they would not feel attacked.
Mm-hmm.
I said it in a way, well, the window got broken out and I thought they had done it. Broken out of the car, and I thought they had done it, and I didn't say you. I just said, "Oh, the window broke in my car. I'm just so upset. It's going to cost hundreds of dollars to fix." And he just turned around and walked away. And I felt good about just speaking up when I was afraid instead of running away.
Thank you, Freya. Thank you.
Constance has her hand up.
Okay.
Well, one of the things that I've been doing recently is something called metacognitive drawing. So if I come up against an emotion or an event, and I sometimes, things happen and I'm pretty clear about it, but other times if I'm unclear, that doing a metacognitive drawing will really help me. So this is one I did, if you can sort of see it.
Now we can.
I had an interaction that left me upset, and I didn't quite understand all of it, what was going on. So I came home and I just allowed the pen to go in whatever energetic way it wanted. And this is what I came up with. And then I was able to just put it aside and look at it. I mean, first of all, I wrote some words that came right up, but then I looked at it And the more I looked at it, the more stuff came up. And I was able to realize that it was an old patterning from me. And so it wasn't just journaling. Sally, it's a metacognitive drawing. And then because what that drawing does in art therapy is it bypasses the rational and gets into the subconscious. So it allows things the energy to come out that you might not be able to access otherwise. So basically what ended up happening was that I made a major shift after I had done this and worked with it for a few days. It just wasn't immediate, but so that's something I've been working with recently that has been very useful.
Thank you. Thank you, Constance. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. It's one I've never used, and I may try that. Thank you. Anyone?
I'd like to. I don't know how you can see me. I don't know that, but my video is stopped. It says I don't know how to make it go. I'm on a phone.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and we need to keep it short because we don't have much more time.
Okay, this is something like what you were saying about your closet thing in childhood. I was on a short walk at my farm in the border of Louisiana and Texas with my little sister when I was 6 and she was 4. And I don't know how to start the video. There. I was on a short walk with her, and this is very funny that you mentioned a bull, because the neighbors had bulls. They had a bull and cows and peacocks, and this bull came running through the fence, and I was shocked. I thought it was behind the fence, and I was taunting it, but I didn't realize there was a hole in the fence, and it came running through. And I told my little sister to run, and I found a tree that had fallen down, and I was just 6, but I picked up this tree. It was a small tree, bigger than a Christmas tree, but I picked it up and I put it on my forehead like a horn, and I charged him, and he stopped and he turned around and went back in the fence. And so I learned that I could protect myself. I learned that I could handle it. It gave me a lot of confidence at that time. I was good in the woods after that by myself. I went all the time hiking by myself in the woods, and went and came across all kinds of things like a 12 wolves feeding one time. And I wasn't scared, but I knew how to get out. I knew how to back my way out while keeping my eyes on them. I was amazed at my gift of skills in the woods. So that's what I want to say, that I was scared, but I used action to overcome my fear.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. And the story reminds me of that, the quote from the movie of the father saying, look the monster square in the eyes and it'll turn tail and run. But
this one was real.
It was real. Yeah, it was a real one. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, Dave?
Yeah, Judith, I just wanted to say that the monster that was in your closet was real. It was me.
Dave is my brother, my younger brother.
Oh, I want to see Dave. Where's Dave?
Well, Dave, I now I know. Now the mystery is solved.
Up there.
Do you have a fear story that you want to share and a solution?
Well, the one I shared 2. One was a fear in my adult life, career life. I always had a fear of public speaking, and I was just always had anxiety if I had a speaking engagement I needed to do. And I don't have a solution. I never got over it. I just retired and don't have to do that anymore. So that was, yeah. And then the other one I shared was when I was a child, and we didn't have a TV. I had to go to the neighbors, our cousins up the hill to watch TV. And when I would leave there at night, it was about maybe a 200-yard run from their house to our house through down a little path. And I was always terrified of what might get me in the dark when I left there. So I would just get ready at the door and then just bolt and just run all the way into the back door. And the solution was just be as fast as I could be so that whatever was out there wasn't going to get me. That was the whole solution.
Well, I guess it worked, huh?
I guess I made it this far.
Yeah. Great, great. Okay, and we'll talk about public speaking later. I have a few tips, even though you don't have to do it anymore.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Anybody else? I can't really see. Sally, do you see anybody?
I don't see anybody else, although Maggie is trying to speak again and her
Well, I
phone is
want to
muted.
say,
Oh, Maureen's got her hand up now.
okay, and I want to say something too after Maureen. Maureen?
So I just wanted to say, I think both, I was with Judith. Both Judith and I shared a specific fear that we had, but we talked about how we really used our spiritual practices. Like now, like back in the day when we had fears, it was different. But now when we have our tools and we're utilizing those tools, and that, you know, a fear has come over us, a pretty serious fear, and then like a health concern, and then feeling like the energy of spirit coming into the mix and having the fear, but also feeling, you know, protected or safe, or that you'll be okay or something like that. So just wanted to share that, that, you know, we have the spiritual practices, and knowing that spirit, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, is there with you. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And of course, that's, yeah, and yeah, trust and faith can take us a long way. Thank you, Maureen. I love that, what you just said. Oh, so I wanted to share one thing. It's a technique that I was given also by Angeles Arian. And I practice this one regularly. And it is that when I catch myself in an imagining about something that bad that could happen, and the example I gave the person in my breakout room was, let's suppose it's a rainy day and I'm driving and I'm on the freeway and it's slick, you know, it's a slick street, and the thought comes into my mind, I might get in an accident. I catch the thought, and then what she taught us to do was to repeat to ourselves 3 times, that's a story that doesn't need to happen. That's a story that doesn't need to happen. That's a story that doesn't need to happen. And it just nips it in the bud. You know, these imaginings, you know, because our minds can really, as I'm sure you know, our minds can just take us and take us and take us and blow a situation up into something that isn't even real, you know. False evidence appearing real. There's no evidence sometimes for what it is we're afraid of. And so I bring myself back. I repeat that 3 times, and it takes me right back. It basically, it eliminates it. It wipes out the fear, just nipping that thought in the bud. But it takes stepping back and witnessing the thoughts. You know, sometimes our thoughts control us, and it's stepping back and not letting our thoughts control us. I think, unless somebody else has something they want to say. Oh, Judith, Dr. Judith.
Just the other thing that that fear stands for, which can be the second. First, there's false evidence appearing real, and then face everything and recover. Being present to what's real rather than being present to ghosts and monsters.
Yes, yes. And that's a perfect segue with the quote that I wanted to close with. It's perfect, Judith. Thank you. It was as if it was already planned. This is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. And she says, courage is more exhilarating than fear. And in the long run, it is easier. We do not have to become heroes overnight, just a step at a time, meeting each thing that comes up, seeing it is not as dreadful as it appeared, discovering we have the strength to stare it down. So that's facing it. And then Judith, can you say that again? What is it?
Face everything and recover.
Face everything.
FEAR.
Face everything and recover. So that she says, discover we have the strength to stare it down. There's the staring again, meet it head on, understand it for what it is. Don't let it take control. And at the same time, be prudent. This is where the healthy fear is. Be prudent. I mean, I do have fire extinguishers in the house and an earthquake kit in the car, and I have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. I mean, we want to be safe and be careful. And so those healthy fears, and pay attention when we might be in harm's way and we're getting a message somehow, either bodily or intuitively or some way, pay attention to those. And just don't let these wild imaginings take over, because they're debilitating. As I said in the beginning with the quote from Angela Sarian, they're constricting and debilitating. And what we want is freedom. And so just managing these fears. And I think we've heard a number of good things tonight that can help us manage fear, which we all experience in some form or another at different times. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for your participation. Oh, one more quote. This is Franklin Roosevelt, which you've probably heard this one. This was during an inaugural address. And he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. So thank you all for attending and for your participation and for your tips and your techniques. I am gonna utilize some of these, and I hope you found some that'll make it easier for you to move through fear as well. So now I'd like to turn it back over to Reverend Sally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith, so much. This has been a fascinating evening of exploring fear and exploring what we can do to manage our own fear. Thank you. I will let you know that there has been information captured in the chat. So if you want the information, please be sure to save the chat now, because it disappears once we go off the Zoom. So thank you again, Judith. Everyone, give her some love.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hearts, reactions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let us go in. We've got some announcements this evening. Peter will manage our slides for us. All right. So this month, the month of May, we are celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and it is a celebration of Asians and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Now, next Sunday, May 21st, Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman will continue the theme of May, Light Within the Shadow, by speaking on the topic of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The meditation begins at 10 a.m. and the service is at 10:30. Next Wednesday, practitioner Susan Urquhart Brown will be joining us and following up on that Sunday discussion of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Meditation on Zoom begins at 6:30 and the service begins at 7. Now, tomorrow is the last day that you can sign up for the 5 gifts for an abundant life class with Reverend Jerry Carter. You can sign up for a price of $199 tomorrow, but after that, the price is $225. So everyone who has taken this class has raved about it. If that idea of a 7-week certified class doesn't fit your schedule, you could also drop into 2 of our study groups. We have the Exploring the Aramaic Teachings of Jesus group that I'm leading, Reverend Sally, and we meet on Fridays and Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. And then there's also the Living the Science of Mind book study with Reverend Aikya Param and Tom Rose. And that is actually beginning this Saturday, May 20th, on Zoom, starting at 10 a.m. Remember, to get the Zoom links, you have to sign up on the classes page. All right. And then next, the Diversity Circle is hosting a talk and discussion on transforming community with presenter Sandia Jha. They are an anti-oppression consultant, an ordained pastor with a master's degree in public policy. Sandia is comfortable in the pulpit and on the picket line, or hanging out with friends and friends-to-be over a good cup of tea and a good story. This inspired discussion will take place starting at 7 p.m. Friday, May 26th on Zoom. Love offering is always appreciated, and you can check it out on the Diversity Circles page under the groups in our website. Our bookstore always has fabulous sales, and this month, the books for the study groups and classes are on sale for 30% off. In addition, all of our children's books and jewelry are also 30% off. So as always, for information on all that's going on at your Oakland Center, we invite you to visit the website www.oaklandcsl.org to sign up for that weekly newsletter. We also invite you to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and then you'll be receiving special updates that you'll only get by liking and subscribing to OCSL. The individuals that you can reach out to personally are listed on this slide. All right, that's it for all the announcements this evening. What I'd like to do now is to invite us into our giving time. This is the time when we get to give back to the center for all that it does for us. So let us begin with our giving affirmation. You can repeat after me. This gift I give is God in action. It does good work in the world and blesses creation. Now there are 5 ways. There's an abundance of ways for you to give to the center. You click the donate icon on our webpage, and when you do, you can find ways of giving through credit card, by mail, by Zelle, by text, or you can come to the Sunday service and drop your offering in the basket during the Sunday service. All right. So that's it for our service this evening. We're 1 minute over the time, but I want to thank everyone for sticking with us this far. And I'm going to ask Constance to pray us out and also give thanks to everyone. Thanks to the tech team. Thanks to Judith. Thanks to all of you for joining us this evening. Okay, Constance, take us out in prayer, and then we can gather as a community afterwards.
Oh, how good it is to remember and to know that there is only the one God, there's only the one source, there's only that one divine energy. And that energy is an energy of divine love. It's an energy of expanding love. It's an energy of infinite love. and how very grateful I am for this evening, for this time we've had together, for the wisdom that's come forth, for the insights that people have shared, and how grateful I am to my cat, who is also helping me pray tonight. And adding her 2 cents worth. And so I just am so grateful, and I know that we all have a beautiful evening, and that that we all are at home safely, and that God is good. And so please join me in saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.